That's what it is. Well, I'm sure there's audio off the webcam. There we go. It's been a couple months.
Are we on?
We are on.
Hey, welcome, Cardinal fans. It's our first episode of Summer Sports Kickoff.
We've rejuvenated our batteries after basketball season.
We're back. First time in a few months, so we're a little rusty and trying to get back in the flow of, working beside each other again. And
it took 37 minutes for me to figure out how to set it all up again,
Yeah.
and I had it down to like 10 minutes in basketball season.
yeah, so we're live here at the baseball field right now, Maquoketa High School, and first week of baseball practice started this week, and Dale and I wanted to come down and take a look and kind of try the facilities out for taping or videoing and see how everything works. So here we are.
Little misclaimer though, we're using a webcam, portable webcam for today, but don't have the camera set up because somebody forgot the cord, and
Yeah, somebody
hasn't gone and got a new adapter yet, and somebody tried to do this on Monday and forgot the laptop part of it.
So here we are, getting through we didn't have an opportunity to do many of the spring sports. Well, any of the spring sports, just schedules didn't allow it, and
The weather.
the weather has not been good. So we're here. It's a nice night at the Jack Marlowe Sports Complex, and we're glad to be here. The kids are out on the field. I think this is the first time all week they've been able to. Right now, they're actually on the infield. And I think that's the first time they've been able to do that. So.
Yeah, last night they had to go do their ground ball drills up at the softball field. It had a little more dryness to it. So
yeah, and you can see that you may not be able to see it on camera, but center field's pretty wet yet. You can see the spots out there, but overall the field's in pretty good shape. So infield looks beautiful tonight.
looks like Bradley mowed today, maybe.
Yep.
At least the outfield, it looks like, anyway.
So I know Dale and I are highly anticipating the kickoff of the summer sports and the baseball season, especially as we both have sons playing, and we're going to do a special on the softball team next week also too. But for tonight, let's talk baseball, and let's talk about first of all maybe a quick recap of last year.
Do we have to?
We were. A young team, I would say, for the most part. Last year, we only had 2 seniors, I think, in Parker Nimmers and Perry Barnes.
We've been a young team for 2 years.
We have.
And that's going to be one of the biggest differences this year is a lot of these kids out here have taken their lumps the last 2 years, and now you're going to have a good, steady stream of seniors for this team and a few underclassmen sprinkled in there that have already got a year or two, something. And there's a junior who's got 3 years under his belt. So
yeah, and really upper class numbers is probably better than they've been between the junior and senior class. Total better than we've had in a few years, I would say,
since I moved here.
Yeah, so we've got how many seniors do we have? We've got, and bear with us here because every night we're seeing kind of some new faces show up as other sports allow them to get here.
You got one that's not here. He's at golf. Is Kane Kopp. And he'll solidify that pitching staff and anchor in center field like he has been the last 2 years.
Yep. He'll be our number 1 pitcher going into the season. Then you got Caden Scott.
This be his last go around. My last go around with the dog in the fight. So.
Yep. And I know he's looking forward to a successful senior campaign. And then you got Thomas Crosland.
He's actually not here as well.
He's not here tonight. I know I saw him here the other night. He's in, I believe.
Or maybe he is here.
Yeah, it's a little tough to see her be out on the field.
I think he just.
And then, I see Aaron Bramer out there tonight practicing too, and that's another senior that brings some nice elements to the team. So.
And he's also a William Penn commit. He signed with William Penn for football.
Oh, did he sign? Okay,
yep.
Great. Yeah, so we got Caden Scott who signed, and then Aaron will sign for football. So we got 2 kids that getting prepared this fall to start their college careers in sports. And then let's take a look at the junior class of players we've got out here. So like you had mentioned, we've got Ryan Grunwald, this will be his fourth year of varsity baseball. And then we got Jack Dostal. This will be his second year. He got quite a bit of playing time last year as a sophomore. we got Abe Mickle, who also got considerable playing time last year. And those guys have played multiple spots, both pitched. Abe does a lot of catching for us. And then,
You got Taven Rich, who decided to come out this year.
yep, Taven Rich is out here and looking good. And then Liam Onen, I don't believe he's here tonight, but
We should ask his dad when he walked by like 15 minutes ago.
I saw him here a couple of the other nights that I've been around
Yep.
and walked by. So, and are we forgetting anybody else in the junior class? Cole Harmon's not here. I know he's golfing too. So, and he's one that had considerable playing time last year, and was up near the top in hits on the team last year. So, a
Yep.
lot of kids that have seen a lot of playing time, and actually I think you know, from the two seniors, you know, most of the hits from last year are back, because I think Parker had you know, his hits, but Perry didn't see a ton of game action. But so you're returning almost all your hits from last year. You know, most of your RBIs, a lot of pitching innings. You know, a lot of everybody as catchers. All your catchers are back. Your whole outfield's back, which is huge. And then
Yeah, the whole outfield they've been together for this will be their third year. They were
third year starting out there.
Yep. So they're all three seniors. So one of the better outfields probably in the conference, really, as far as defensively.
Oh, then we did forget to mention, just in, I don't know if I saw him here tonight, Bryce Hansen is a senior also.
Yep.
So and Bryce, you know, was a starting third baseman most of the year last year, and put together a nice season.
He had a pretty good winter as well up at the Hit Tracks League. I think he was third overall for the Maquoketa kids in hitting in that league, behind Caden and Ryan Grunwald. I think Caden finished third overall in the entire group.
Yeah, and that's one thing I would say about this season as compared to maybe some of the other seasons. We've had a lot of kids pretty active in some off-season activities. That hitting league, I believe, was in January, and we had a bunch of kids.
We had enough Maquoketa kids to field
Fielded
4 teams up there.
Yeah, so we had 14, 16 kids. from
16 or 17.
So a lot of focus on trying to get better, and then we had a lot of kids playing spring baseball too. In the Perfect Game Spring League, I think we had something like 8 kids playing in that too. So, and then I am taking a group of the 8th graders up to play in Farley next weekend, just to kind of get a couple games before their season starts, and they can kind of get used to the distance and using BB core bats and all that stuff. So
let's talk about sophomores. Probably the team leader last year as a freshman, Cannon Coakley, back.
Yep. So Cannon's coming back. He played a lot of shortstop last year and pitched, caught a little bit for us. So yeah, I know he's really excited to get going here in his sophomore year, and this will be his 3rd year at varsity. And then we got Peyton Mangler, who
Second baseman.
got a lot of time at second base last year, and he pitched a little bit too at the varsity level.
I think those were the only 2 sophomores we had last year.
Sophomores that saw action, as freshmen last year.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's some players I think that, this is just by looking at the field, and I don't mean to admit anybody if I forget anybody. You know, Daniel Coyle's out there, and you know, he's always been a nice little player. I've coached him since he was 8 years old.
You're all right. I turned it down.
You good? We're just doing a preseason thing.
He just wants to hear himself. He just wants to hear himself talk. Is what he wants to do. It's been a while.
I've been a nervous wreck trying to get all this crap ready for this weekend. It's a lot.
Ain't nobody watching anyway.
Corner him down. All right, sounds good. See ya. Did you stop it?
No, I just turned down the audio.
So sorry about that. Had a visitor up here in the booth I wanted to chat with quick, but Daniel Coyle, like I said, left-handed player, right-handed hitter, but he plays some outfield. He's played some first base. Nice little pitcher, strike thrower, and always been a solid hitter. So other players, you know, I'm just kind of going down the grades here. So
Well, that's pretty much your varsity team right there, because, you know, they have been young for the last 2 years. There's not a
Yeah,
spot really open
we named
this year.
probably 12 or 13 players there. So yeah, we're going to be upper class for the most part, upper class dominated, and then some of these other kids are going to, the kids that produce are going to get some other opportunities um, to get some action too. So I think that's one thing that just seeing the numbers that have been showing up this week, I think maybe we're going to be a little deeper than we have been in the past. And as we all know, with the new pitching rules in high school, it takes a lot of arms at every level, and
Now I know there's varsity wise, yes, I think we are going to be deeper, especially on the pitching side of things as well. Lower levels actually might be the ones kind of struggling this year a little bit with numbers, which is kind of the reverse of where it's been the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think it's part of it is trying to get a mix between all three levels. I know the eighth grade class. There's a lot of kids. I mean, they have a really good turnout of players here. So
I think
kids
they're at a track meet today too. So
yeah, there's a few of them here. Casey, my son Casey's here, and that's a group that they've been playing together. Most of those kids for quite a few years, and I would just want to give a little kudos to that group because every one of those kids that played youth baseball together on their travel team went out, and that's something you don't see every year. So really like to see that. So kudos to those kids. And then, not to overlook the freshman class. I don't think we've covered them yet. So Mitchell Rader saw a little bit of action last year in varsity pitching and a little bit catching. I would guess he's going to see some varsity action pitching again and mixing it in the field a little bit. And then some of the other kids, Hunter Manning's a freshman, Owen Powers, and I'm just looking at these kids right now. They're all on the infield here. Oh, another sophomore. I just saw Stephen Mask out there. So he'll mix in somewhere there too between level 2 and depending on how they split out the kids when they kind of decide who's going to what level. They want to maximize the opportunities for every kid and get them at bats and get them playing time and help them all get better. I see Owen Powers out there at second, and
I think the underlining thing of the whole deal is, as far as the younger kids are concerned, if they watch this later, is, fielding positions, not a lot open out there, but if you can pitch, you might find yourself with a varsity uniform during the season.
Yeah, so if any young kids are watching this, and I've always preached this, is, boy, the more positions you can play, the more valuable you are. And I know a lot of kids don't like to look at it that way, but, man, when that spot comes open and they really need somebody, well, if you're one of those kids that can play a lot of those spots, you become really valuable.
And that, to be honest, that's how Caden got his scholarship to William Penn. He got recruited as a utility player because he played every position but first base and pitch, of course. But that's what kind of really sold them on that. So you get a little more opportunity if you're willing to be flexible. And sometimes right field's not the most glamorous position, but I'll tell you right now, when you're playing right field and at varsity level baseball, it's not a downgrade at all because it's very important as well.
That's right, and
I don't think who's the right fielder in Milwaukee? Is that Yelich?
Yeah, Yelich.
I don't think he complains about having to play right field.
Well, I think I saw an analysis last year on MLB Network about player salaries, and right field is the highest paid. So you got Giancarlo Stanton playing right field, right?
You usually got some power out there and some arms,
and those guys make the money. And a saying I've always heard, and I think this is true at any level: you can hit your way onto any team, and any lineup. So if you can hit, they will find a spot for you to play. So kids, put the time in and work hard, get the training you need, and become a hitter. Because people, the big saying now on like Twitter and thing is people like dudes, and dudes are guys that can hit. So become a dude.
Dude.
And I just kind of want to cover all the kids I can see out here tonight too. So I just saw Lucas Urig out there. He's an 8th grader. Nice athlete, plays a lot of sports, does a lot of things well, plays multiple positions. I see Beidler kid out there, and I apologize, I can't think of his first name. I believe it's Caden Beidler or Kyler. I apologize, I'm not sure which one it is, but He's an eighth grader. And see Daniel Coyle out in center. Devin Gardner is another eighth grader that's out there. Braden Bartles is another eighth grader, plays a lot of positions. Does a lot of things well. So I'm just making my way around here. I think we covered Taven Rich and Caden, right? Steven Mask, Ryan Grunwald. So a lot of good things. So let's touch a little bit on varsity pitching again, Dale. I think we kind of know probably those 4 or 5 guys that are going to see a lot of action. You know.
Well, see, now you're going to get me all riled up because, and you're going to hear this throughout the season. So I'm sorry, but it's going to be a sticking point with me. Is these pitch counts that they have nowadays is a real thorn in my side. But I get why they try to do it. I just think they're way too conservative with it. But in that token, that's one of the things that has hurt us the last few years.
It is.
Especially the last 2 when this new pitch count rule came into focus. You can't have a couple kids that back in our day, there was 2 of us that we started every conference game, no matter how many days off, and we didn't have this, and does make it difficult because if you throw it like with Cannon was probably by far 1A, 1B between him and Kane last year. Now if you throw Cannon on a Wednesday, he's done until next week. If he went over 90, it went to his 90 pitches.
So I think one of the things we're seeing out of that now is you're seeing the reverse effects of that is schedules are changing, right? So we played a lot of Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Well, now you're seeing there's some weeks where you're only playing 2 doubleheaders instead of 3, and it's because of pitching. It's to spread that out.
Yeah.
And
in fact, I think that's why we're actually starting a week earlier this year than we did last year too. If I'm not mistaken.
We're starting a couple days earlier anyway, and we're spreading. The games are spread out a little bit. And another thing we're doing this year that we didn't do last year, we're playing on a Saturday there. I think in the second week of the season.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be fun for the kids to play in a little. I don't know if it's a round robin or what kind of tournament that is over in. Is it Anamosa or Springville?
Springville, I think.
So that'll be fun. But the games are just spread out a little bit more, and that gives you that flexibility that you can pitch these guys a little bit. And just for the people that don't know, when you're an underclassman, 8th grade freshman, you're limited to 90 pitches on any night. And that's usually about 5 innings from what we see. 5 maybe to start the 6th.
And that's you got to throw strikes. You can't try and throw a spot. You just got to throw strikes, let them hit it, and play good defense. Now, defensively, I think we have a team set up that we can do that this year.
Yeah. Well, let's jump back to pitching. So
we're going to jump around.
Yeah, because I just want to cover this real quick. So you got Kane, you've got Cannon, you've got Jack Dossel that threw a lot of the non-conference games last year against tough competition. He faced North Scott, who was in the top 10 in the state. He faced Davenport North, I believe. He faced there's somebody else.
North Scott in the ropes threw about 4 innings.
Yeah, and he pitched really well in a lot of those games. He might have pitched against Waller too. And then the one kid that didn't pitch much last year that was going through some issues is Ryan Grunwald, and he's a strike thrower. So if we can get some innings out of him this year, and then you got Peyton Mangler who threw a few innings, and then Mitchell Rader. I mean, those are probably the guys that we're looking at as starters, right?
Yeah. And it's a nice mix too because you got Cannon who throws hard, has good curveball. Kane throws legitimately hard, and he can spot his pitches. He's probably the most efficient pitcher we have as far as utilizing his pitches. It's something that him and I had talked about after games as well. Even before games he pitched, the last couple of years. Hey, I would always tell him, don't waste any. We got to get through this, and because we just didn't have the depth, in a bullpen per se to
and you can't
bail us out.
There's no trying to hit the corner, nipping at the corner. It's you want to throw strikes now because you only get so many pitches, so you got to throw them.
And then Mitchell Rader, not a hard thrower, but he is very consistent on throwing strikes. And then Peyton Mangler, he's not a hard thrower either. He's trying to work on getting hard throw, but I think he's just fine where he's at. Has a tremendous slow curveball that it's very difficult for hitters to hit.
Yeah, he mixes speeds well, mixes pitches well. Um, Thomas Crosland's a guy that comes in, has thrown a lot of innings. He's a strike thrower.
He's one of those kids where if you want to get him to put the bat on the ball and put it in play, he's one of those kids you want to bring on the mound.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And then Cole Harmon, he started some games. He came in and relieved some games. I know he had a lot of appearances last year.
A little bit up and down
Yep,
as
he's,
far as what we're going to get that night,
but he's always that high sought-after lefty, so he's a guy that's going to get some time on the mound too.
and he can throw with some velocity.
Yep, he's probably around that 80-mile-an-hour range, I would guess. So that's good. And then some of the younger
Abe Mickle,
Abe Mickle really.
Abe Mickle, I really look to be like our closer this year. Really,
Yeah, he comes
doesn't
in.
have the off speed stuff. Just throws hard, and for some reason, hitters have a hard time reading it.
Yeah, he's got that delivery that kind of is deceptive, and it's hard for hitters to pick up the ball out of his hand. And he had some great innings last year pitching. So
Trying to think who else pitched. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised to see how many years in a row we had an 8th grader up on varsity, at least by the halfway point. Been 4 years now.
Well, let's see, be 3 in a row.
3 for sure.
Yeah, 3. I think there's just 3. Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure that's going to continue this year, and you're going to be one of them proud dad moments, and you're going to have 2 of your boys in uniform.
I think time will tell on that. I think it's all going to be like I tell Casey. Obviously every kid wants to get to varsity as soon as I think that's their goal is you want to be that kind of player that can move up and be successful, and a lot with him is going to depend on how he.
Now, one thing I'm watching him out here. I'm gonna say this. Have you talked to Casey that at this level we wear ball caps?
Yeah. Well, he's probably blaming his brother right now because Casey went to weights after school, and Cannon brought his stuff in for him. Cannon had some homework stuff he was doing.
So Cannon probably did it on purpose.
Yeah, he probably just didn't think of it, and I wasn't thinking as a dad. Cannon and I rode in together, and I wasn't thinking as a dad either. So,
well, it's early.
Yep. So, but you know what? For the first week, watching them out here turning double plays and stuff, they look pretty smooth, really. But I'm just looking at last year's stats. Like Ryan Grunwald only got 2 appearances on the mound. As he was battling some issues. Bryce Hanson had 4 appearances too, and had some success. And like you said, we had Abe. And then as we look at hitting, like I said, you got pretty much your whole lineup back. Parker was a regular in the lineup last year, and he graduated. But everybody else is back. And I think, I think one of the questions we've kind of talked about amongst ourselves, Dale, is
who's playing first?
Who's playing first, and who's going to be the DH?
That has been the topic of conversation. If Grunwald listens to this, he'll be laughing.
So who's on first? And, as analysts, we're announcers, but we're analysts too, and we're dads. And you try and play this all out in your head a few times, and looking at Taven Rich there, boy, I like looking at him at first. He's just got that nice athletic build. He's tall, and he's 6'5", 6'6".
Speaking, you say that. Kate's always said to me at times, and he hasn't played a lot of infield, the last few years, but when he did, he always liked a bigger kid there.
Yeah,
he didn't like a small kid there because he wanted the big target.
Well, why I think that is I think perception is reality. And when you're an infielder, and let's say you're on the left side of the infield, you field the ball and you look up and you see that big presence there, the throw doesn't look as far, right? If you've got somebody that's a little smaller in stature standing there, it actually looks like a longer throw than it is. So I think it's a mental thing, your perception of who's there. And I see Ryan Grudwald's taking some plays here at first base. That I'm not saying that means anything, but he's over there taking some balls. And Cole Harmon played some there last year. Parker played there.
Peyton
played there. And maybe it's somebody we're not even talking about or thinking about. But always, people kind of look at first base as a non-critical position at times. But boy, they are involved in so many plays, and it's a lot more critical, I think, than people think at times. And there's not a bad spot on the field. So
Well, if you ain't got a first baseman that can catch it, you're going to give away a lot of runs.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we got a lot of second basemen. I'd say all the way up from 8th through 12th grade, there's a lot of guys that can play second base, so a lot of depth there. You got shortstop, you got a few guys that can play there. And third base, I haven't seen a lot of guys go over there tonight. Abe Mickles over there taking some balls right now. And
Well, you got Abe, Bryce.
oh, yeah, Bryce. Bryce isn't here, so
You got
Caden can play some third. I see
not-
he's mixing in at short right now. Or
yeah. Well, they just second baseman were just standing over there, so you made him go over to short, take some
turning two here. Turning two from first baseman here.
I think the line of the off season was when we were talking about infield, outfield, and with Caden. I said, what do you prefer? Because, the last couple of years he's been mainly outfield. He gets shuttled into infield during situations at times, depending on who has to pitch, and he's even had to catch. And I said, how do you say it? He said it really funny, like, I'd rather play infield because outfield's boring at times. He says, but I understand I'm a better outfielder.
Yeah, and and I'm going to speak a little bit from personal experience here. So one thing you worry about in kids, and I'm not talking about Caden here, but infield is non-forgiving at times, right?
Oh, yeah.
And everybody sees you when you don't make a play. You gotta make field the ball and throw it, and boy, that gets in your head when you're not doing it, and it can go bad. And then when that starts getting in your head, then you take that to your bats too. So a lot of times when you see a guy struggling on the field, you see him struggling hitting too. Now I went through some of that when I played, where I just got
Yes,
in my
you did.
it just got in my head, and you can't say it's sometimes
we both have stories for this.
yeah, it's just sometimes you have trouble getting over that stuff, and but it all worked out in the end. And
Yeah, well, I credit you. Like our senior year, you had to play one game in left field, and then the second game at
Yeah.
shortstop. So you were getting both worlds, in the
Yeah.
same night.
And I knew, going in, I was struggling a little bit going into our senior year at fielding, and like I said, it got in my head. And then we had Andy Wold, who was a sophomore, that was playing up with us, and he was playing really well. And coach came to me and said, "How do you feel about playing a little left field?" I'm like, "Whatever it takes. I don't care. I just want to play." And so I started playing some left field. You know what? I had some fun out there actually. And then I'd come in when Andy'd pitch, I'd play short, and actually by the end of the year, it really worked out. I had my confidence back, and I remember our district game our senior year. I made some great.
Come on now.
I made some. Hey, I'm just talking about fielding. I know I made some plays that I'm pretty proud of yet
Well,
to this
I gave
day.
you plenty of opportunities that day.
But yeah, so there's nothing like young kids, man. Outfield's so important, and it doesn't it seem like Dale, the last couple of years, it's like we're always looking for outfielders. It seems like
Well, we had the three
because like when Kane's pitching or
Yeah.
when Thomas is pitching,
There was always who's going to be the fourth.
yeah, it's the fourth guy, and
It's been that's been a how do you want to call it? The fourth outfielder has been by committee is how I
Yeah,
like to say it.
yeah.
You've seen like last year we had Cannon out there at times. You had Ryan Grunwald out there at times. You had times where you brought in a Marcus Cox would go into left field. They moved Caden over to right.
yeah,
I'm trying to think. Thomas was normally there. And then he would move over to center at times when Kane was pitching, and then I said before I'd like to see Ryan play a lot more center as well when Kane's pitching.
and that's one thing about Ryan.
But he
is
wasn't healthy last year
Yeah.
for most of the season, so
Ryan plays a lot of positions well. He's a good catcher. He's a good infielder. He plays a good gets really good reads on the ball in the outfield. And closes gaps and gets to those things. And you like having people like that can do that. So But we're kind of a team of that kind of players. Like you said, Cannon can do that. Caden can do that. Um, Abe Miko plays a lot of positions, and I see some of these young kids that right now that are moving different positions in practice. So there's a nice throw by Daniel Coyle out there in the outfield.
Yeah, you got the outfielders out there now. It looks like we can work on some of that. And I do see Ryan Grunwald in center. I'm liking to see
Oh
that.
yeah, he is out there. Yep. So the lineup, I probably won't be a lot of adjustments. I think most of the second half of last year, Kane led off, so I expect him to probably either be in maybe the 1 or 2 hole. But this is all, coaches have their own idea what kids they want in which spots, and they have their reasons why, and I'm sure they'll get those guys in place.
I think the biggest thing, with the experience we got, is getting off to a good start this year. That's something that we have not been able to do.
Let's talk a little bit about. So last year we were 3-31, and obviously not the outcome you want, but we weren't getting blown out of games. We were.
The year before we did.
Yeah, we were competitive in games, and we were right there. We had a chance to win a lot of games. Even the district game against Assumption, we may have lost 8-2 or something, but for most of that game, it was a pretty close game, and that was kind of indicative of our season. A lot of the games were close, so I think
just
this
couldn't
year,
find that timely hitting when we needed it.
Nope, and that's this year. That's what I think is going to change. We got a lot of kids that have had a lot of at bats. I think confidence is going to be a lot higher going into this year. And, boy, if we can come out that first week and get a couple wins, it's going to go a long ways with this group. But we've got some leaders, like we talked about. We've got senior numbers, we got junior numbers, we got some rah-rah kids that like to talk, and pump kids up, and we got some quiet kids that just want to play the game and do their job. So we've got a good mix of that kind of thing. And
it's looking a little ragged so far to start this outfield.
Well, this is probably the first time they've been doing cuts. Yeah. So this is one of the toughest things I think and this is why you work on it the first week. But it's one of the toughest things to kind of get down. Getting in the right position, lining kids up, going. Outfielders are trying to be quick to get the ball and get rid of it, and keep everything sharp. So
I'm going to work on center, so I'll go center here.
Yeah, looks a little soft out there yet.
I'm excited for this season. Last year I was excited going into last year. It just kind of didn't happen. I think if we didn't have that first doubleheader against Tipton rained out and never got to play it,
yeah,
and we played Tipton to start the season and maybe had a really good effort there, I think our season goes a little differently.
Yeah, I agree.
Not to downplay Tipton, but that's probably a nice opponent to start out with. That you have a good chance of actually, of winning and not starting with a Davenport North like we ended up doing.
Yep, I agree. And as long as that doesn't get rained out again, we have to face Davenport North right away. And I know Davenport North's strong again. I think they've got those top couple pitchers are back, and if we happen to play them first, we'll see one of those guys. But Tipton would be a good matchup. I think we've got the players to compete definitely with them.
And that was not good.
I think we've got.
That was not good.
What's that? Caden?
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I was looking the other way.
Yeah. He's got a little arm issue. You could tell that one hurt him. He's holding it.
Yeah, he's grabbing it. Which is, I'm just going to throw this out there. It's pretty common the first week to go through a little soreness.
He twinged it the other day in practice. Thinks he popped a blood vessel, and it just, you don't have time to heal it. And
has he been icing?
Yeah, he's been icing, heat, everything. You can tell it
looks like he's in a little bit of pain there.
Yeah.
Oh, Cale Wydell. Cale Wydell's out there in left, too, and I don't think I mentioned him, so he's another freshman that plays some outfield, pitches. I'm just trying to make sure we mention kind of all the kids out there. And boy, I think I see Tenley Kavanaugh standing out there, too, and boy, you can't hardly go without not mentioning her. She's she's been kind of an integral part, helping the last couple of years, and now she's started as an 8th grader on the varsity softball team last year. So that's something we'll probably talk about next week when we cover them. But well, Dale, I think we kind of covered what we want to cover. Is there anything else you want to go over?
I just want to get the season started. By the way, it'll start May 20th at Tipton, right here on MCSN. If anybody watches this and wants to sponsor, we'll be getting out pricing packages. This will be turning into a revenue stream so that we can give, money to the school and for letting us do this. And it's going to expand. We're looking at hopefully doing around at least 70 games this summer between varsity baseball, varsity softball, level 2, level 3 on both baseball and softball as well. Maybe even throwing in a couple Bellevue Marquette games. So
Yeah, we've had people.
There's a lot on the horizon, and
some people requesting some things. So that's all I had. And anybody that watches this later or that tuned in, thanks for joining us. And we're just trying to kick off, getting back in here, testing the equipment at the baseball field, and catching a little glimpse of practice and our thoughts on the season. And pretty excited about getting this one going. So,
all right. Well, we'll see. We'll tune in next week. We'll go over the softball field for an angle and take a look at what they got to offer. Is they haven't even started practice. I think they don't start till Monday, do they?
yeah, they start Monday. Yep.
So we'll take a look at Sarah Nelson's group next week and broadcast live from that as well and offer some thoughts. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.